Thank you all for joining in and getting on board with intuition, or your natural intuition, and how it speaks to you, and the ways in which meditation can strengthen that intuition, that natural inner skill that each of us all have. And some of us may refer to intuition in different words or different labels. Some of us might call it like a hunch or a gut feeling, or just a sense of knowing. And I feel like all these terms are so similar, yet all at the same time they're intuition. And it could take on the form of when you think of someone and they end up calling you, or you can feel the energy or the emotion of what's been happening in a room or an environment or a place or a person. Or it could simply be just feeling so strongly urged and so strongly guided from within about certain decision that you need to make. So I thought I'd really try and focus on a perspective from a meditation perspective today, as that's usually one of the big questions that a lot of clients and students ask me. You know, they attend intuitive development or psychic development workshops, and they ask, do I really need to meditate? Like, can I get the information straight away? Or can't my skills just be so strong that I don't need to meditate, or take care of my body and my mind? But in reality, the more that you connect and engage with meditation, the more that you get to know yourself on many different levels. Like, for instance, engaging in a meditative practice, whether it be with your eyes closed, or it be an active kind of activity that you're really, really conscious about and really involved with your breathing. It's really all about being able to focus your attention and your awareness, and be present and be engaged with what you're doing, and recognizing your thoughts. And when we blend intuition into this, it's about getting to understand not just the current thoughts that are going on, but being able to be at peace with them, and being able to be honest and authentic, and able to acknowledge the things that come up for you. And that's where I feel that meditation is really important. It builds, or it equips you with the skills needed to deal with day-to-day decision making, day-to-day challenges, if you will. And when we think about this from an intuitive perspective, the more that you meditate, the not just the quieter things around you can seem, but the more connected you are to within yourself. And that's something that can make a really big impact on how well you can decode the messages that come through. Now, some people, when they connect with their intuition, they might connect with their feelings. This could be referred to as something like clairsentience. You get in touch with your feelings, and you pick up on feelings or the vibrations of different energies, emotions. You might feel it when you walk into a certain place. You might get that gut clenching sort of feeling when something doesn't feel right, or you might feel that really deep, warm sense of bliss and peace when something really, really feels right, and you've just got to go with it. That's the kind of intuition that you can develop through your feelings. And then moving on from that, there's another sense where you get in touch with your thoughts and sounds, like what you hear and what you think, with the hearing being recognized as clairaudience, and the thinking side of things being recognized as claircognizance. So getting in touch with meditation, for instance, can bring more awareness to what you're thinking or what you're hearing, whether it be in meditation or outside of meditation. And I feel like meditation gives you that space to kind of like work with a sounding board, so that you can, you can gather what you're thinking or what you're hearing. You just put it out there, like, what does it mean for me? Is there significance to it? And it's really all about developing a closer relationship with your senses, so that you can really start to decode and understand what you're hearing or what you're thinking.
I
For
agree.
instance,
Yeah, I agree, because I think so many people, when they're in autopilot and not present, are like
mm,
zoning out their intuition. So I think inherently we all have this great natural gut instinct that's from our
absolutely.
ancestors. But when we're not present, we just tend to zone it out.
Yeah, and it's not something that we're commonly taught to engage with, and it's not something that we're taught to kind of rely on.
Or
Everything
trust.
is, or trust. Everything seems so quick these days that
Yeah.
it almost appears like foolish or looked down upon to not have a response, to have to trust your feelings and not trust something that's solely logical.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's such a natural and beautiful part of us. And just one more sense that I'll cover is clairvoyance. And usually, when we speak of clairvoyance, many people commonly believe it's just about seeing the future and having visions and all these psychic visions and impressions. But really, clairvoyance can refer to everything that you see with your eyes open and with your eyes shut. That it's about being able to see between the worlds, whether you're awake or whether you're in a meditative state or whether you're in a dream or a sleep. Um, it's really about being able to recognize what you see and forming a connection between what you see and what you feel in your body. And when we think of all these clair senses, usually people have one or two particular senses that they have more of a resonance with. And when we think about it this way, it's really important to kind of figure out what works for you and recognize that being intuitive is not always just about one sense, but it's about being able to combine them all together so that they can be so that they can all work together as a unit or a component. So it can be very easily done to say, isolate the senses in terms of what we see, what we feel, what we hear, what we think. And when it comes down to it, sometimes we do tend to trust a particular sense more than the other. But what I'd like to kind of plant a seed for in terms of practice, in terms of a bit of growth from here, is to think about acting or noticing what happens with the different or the other senses, maybe even writing them down or journaling them, and then tuning in and asking your other senses like what they would make of it. So let's say, for instance, you're a person who is not very visual and you are very drawn more towards what you feel. So in this kind of instance, you might start to, or you might hold that intention that you'll start to notice more about what you see in your waking life. So you might write down what you see. You might try and pay more attention to the colors that you see around you, you know, in everyday life. You might start to just write down any sorts of feelings that you get when you wake up from a dream. And this is where meditation comes in. You could sit with what you're actually, you know, what, say in this example, you could sit with what you've written down as what you've seen. And then this is where you could tune in with your body, find a quiet place, and you could ask yourself, you know, how do these things that I've seen today feel with me? Are there any thoughts or divine ideas that come out of this? Or you know, do my angels or guides have any kinds of messages that they can tell me so that I can understand this more? So when we think about it this way, it's about being able to communicate with our intuition, or say our higher self, and to ask our intuition through the means of a meditative state to deliver us a message that we can then interpret through the rest of our senses. Does that make sense, Kirsty?
So do you feel like it's important for us to engage all of them in order to feel connected to our intuition? So,
Absolutely.
okay. And
Absolutely.
so what about when it comes to when you're talking about thoughts? Our thoughts are
Mm-hmm.
what tend to get in our way the most.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if if somebody's really sort of got like a history of, you know, limiting thoughts, or what's a good way to sort of unblock that so that you can actually trust your thoughts are guiding you to your intuition, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a pretty common it's a pretty common what's the word for it? It's pretty common to see that amongst you know, in the people that I see. And I feel like it really comes down to being able to acknowledge what, firstly, what you're thinking, so acknowledging and writing down with it. And then from there, if I was in the experience of limiting thoughts, I would write it down so that I can acknowledge it. You know, acknowledge that I'm having this thought. Now, what am I going to do with it? And then, say, from here, I would invite that person to get in touch with their feelings, say with their body. So this usually would involve um, working with their solar plexus and their heart chakra. So now
Yeah.
we're moving
Okay. Yeah.
towards the feeling section.
Yeah.
And then this is where we would ask, you know, is this, say if it's a decision they have to make, say, you know, we could encourage them to say something like, you know, is this decision in my best intentions? And place a hand on the solar plexus and the other hand on the heart. And so just with the hands on those two chakras, get them to feel out, you know, is there tension in my body in the solar plexus, or do I feel a warmth and a bliss in my heart?
Oh,
And so we're
yeah.
moving from the thinking now towards the feelings, and we're
Mm,
looking and we're experiencing things more on an energetic level. And so, like we said before, that tension in the solar plexus is that sense that, you know, maybe I should slow down, maybe I should reconsider what I'm actually thinking about, or, you know, what I'm actually
yes.
deciding on. And if I feel more warmth and peace up here, then that's something that feels more in alignment with my heart and my soul.
Mm,
And then, you know, that could then lead into something like, you know, asking your angels and guides for a message or a sound, or just putting it out there. You might not always get the answer that you need in that very um, moment of that meditation or that quiet time. But then when you leave that meditation, and you know, you can feel a bit more at peace because you've asked, and hopefully been able to let it go a bit because you've voiced it. And now we're moving into sound.
yes.
you could look at it in the sense of, okay, I'm going to keep my heart and my ears open to, if there's any sounds that I can hear that might relate to what I'm asking about, or let's say if you're in meditation and you've asked that question from your angel or your spirit guide, and you might hear something, or you might get an impression about something on an auditory kind of level, but let's say you might not completely trust that yet because you don't feel that confident in trusting your intuition. Let's say you're at that stage, then maybe you might ask for a sign, or ask for, say, your angel or your spirit guide's name as a way to kind of confirm it. And so, you might sit there, you might wait for a name, and you might write down the first name that comes to you. And the funny way that the universe kind of works is that usually when you operate, you might find yourself, hearing that same name like so momentarily or so frequently after that kind of experience.
Yeah.
So then that's when you would put it all together and you would know that, all right, I'm on the right track with this. That message that I received was something clear, and it's something that I can trust. And bringing all that together in a very holistic, sensational, sensual kind of way can really help to, I guess, build a better trust and build a better relationship with you and your inner guidance, your intuition.
Mm. I like how you talked about the chakras too, because I did a period of like deep chakra work where I
Mm-hmm.
cleared all my chakras after my daughter's like treatment
Mm.
to help heal my
Mm-hmm.
PTSD anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing how blocked my solar plexus
Mm.
was, and
Mm.
even my root chakra. And even though I felt like I was spiritually connected to something greater, and like
Mm.
my crown, my crown was open, I had a closed
Mm.
off throat chakra, and it was like this bottleneck of energy.
Mm.
And I just think chakra work is so powerful when we just take the time to tune into a particular area, like you were saying, and
Mm.
notice how that feels. And I always describe, when your solar plexus is, blocked, it feels like a gut punch. That
Yeah, or
we,
it feel to
yeah,
yeah. It feels like, to me, it feels like a vacuum, like sucking,
mm,
kind of like something
yeah, like just
clamped
like
on my solar plexus, and
absolutely. And
it won't shake off.
when it's open and it's,
Mm.
you just feel so much more open and powerful
Yeah.
and trusting in yourself. So yeah, I love that about tapping into the
Mm.
heart and the solar plexus.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you. And yeah, I feel like when we work with and we engage the senses, it's like, how there's like, say, cylinders in an engine, and um, it's like, they all combine together to make the engine go, or to make the car go. It's like all these senses come together and work together and bounce off each other, and it's like we use meditation to, or we access a meditative state, um, whether it be in a formalized setting or in our everyday waking life. We try and take that away with us so that it can better enhance the quality of the day-to-day lives that we lead.
Mm. This is why I personally think too that silent meditation is really important for people to
Mm-hmm.
practice. Because I
Yeah.
think guided meditations are great. They have a purpose, but
Mm-hmm.
they can block what we're actually
Mm.
trying to achieve with meditation.
Yeah.
But when we just allow ourselves that silence to just sit with ourselves, that's when thoughts come up. There's no distraction, there's nobody guiding me to the next place. It's
Mm.
me observing what's coming up and
Yeah. You're
really
you're
dropping in.
paving that path yourself in a way.
Yeah, so I that's why I always encourage people when they can, like once they've you know, I get guided meditations are great to get started and get you consistent. But I think it's really important for us to sit in those meditative states in silence, and even do, like you said at the beginning, things more mindfully as well, to allow us that space to actually hear what our intuition is saying to us.
Totally. And Blake's just left a really beautiful comment
Oh,
there.
I
It
can't see it.
says, Blake says, meditation is the key, and I guide my clients to use their three minds or brains with questions, decisions to connect with their higher self, intuition.
Love it.
Head equals think, stomach equals feel, heart equals know.
Oh, I
Wow,
love that, Blake.
that's so profound. Thank you, Blake.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So I did want to ask you, because I have
mhm,
had this coming up a lot, and Gracie, if you're
mhm.
going to watch this, I know you will. This is especially for you. Um, what does it mean when people see combinations of numbers consistently?
So say like 111, like 111, or 1111,
Yes.
or let's say certain people are drawn to certain numbers. Like, you know, when people have like their lucky number, like could be a
Yes.
3 or a 6 or a 9 or 222, 333. Usually when we see recurring number patterns, I always think of that as a message from the universe, or a message or guidance from our angels, that um, where in some cases when we ask for a sign, it could be that you see your special number everywhere. So that's one way of looking at it. And then in other cases, you might have certain numbers that come up for you. So let's say, suddenly you might start seeing like 1111s or triple twos or triple threes. There's lots of different books and ideas behind this, but one of the main principles of this is that all numbers have a vibration of their own, so that when you start to see numbers, like whether they be recurring, whether they be your lucky number, or whether they be patterns, when you start seeing them, it's like your energy is attracting, or vibrating at a certain frequency, and you're attracting more of that
Ah,
certain
okay.
number into your
Yes.
life.
Yep.
So from a numerological perspective, ones are usually about new beginnings and planting seeds and intentions. And as we get to twos, it's about I feel like twos are always about like gradually putting in the effort, or making those small steps or small efforts towards what it is that you're asking for or what you're focusing on. Threes, um, now I'm not going to just speak on this from a numerological perspective, because I think everyone has a personal relationship with numbers, like in the sense that numbers have a frequency, and as we work with them, we start to develop a certain relationship or a certain understanding that is applied to us through our perspective and
Mm.
through our lens. So I'll speak on my own experience. When I see threes, threes are my number, and I usually see threes, and that's when I feel the presence of a lot of higher energies, like archangels, or sometimes like Jesus or Kuan Yin. Different. I guess you could say high level spiritual archetypes in that sense. Um, when I see fours, like recurring fours, I recognize that as that's my sign. Like when I know that my angels are talking to me. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
how I
Yeah.
interpret it for me.
Yeah.
But, it could be different for you, or, it could be something kind of general, but then it evolves and expands into how you might look at it.
So really, what this is
Hmm.
like again, if you're seeing those number combinations, it's about listening to your intuition. What are you feeling when you see those number
Yeah,
combinations?
totally.
And then putting that
Totally.
to, I never looked at it like that. I love that.
Yeah. So I'll
Yeah.
go up to nine, because there's
Yeah.
nine single digit numbers. Fives are usually about change for me, and I think the general meaning around that is change. So yeah, but from my experience of working with fives or noticing more fives, mine has been about introspection and looking at what's changing and what
Yeah.
I need to change and work on. Sixes to me feel like a link between a link mostly to material or physical world kind of stuff. For me, sixes feel like a link, or needing to get more in touch or address physical environmental needs that are going on with me.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like sevens are quite a spiritual kind of number, around spiritual purpose and spiritual or higher understanding or wisdom or truth. For me, eights are all about abundance, and
Me too.
I'll just say, for my culture, like Chinese culture, eights are really important because they're all about prosperity and abundance.
Mm.
And culturally, I think Chinese people want to feel like they attract a lot of abundance and prosperity. So usually, if you're out driving and you see number plates with lots of
Yeah.
eights in them, they tend to be Chinese. That's just a little observation I've made, growing up as Australian Chinese in Sydney.
And
And
I like
yeah,
the eight because it's to me too. It's like
hmm.
prosperity and
Yeah. If you turn
a
it on the
turn.
side, it's infinity.
Yeah, that's right. Like something I don't know, really like
Hmm.
flowing. It's just I like the
Yeah,
eight.
it's all about flow. Yeah, and
And nine is my favorite number. So here
yeah,
we go. You're talking.
nines are all about completion. So
Okay,
what's
so I didn't
coming
know
to
that.
an end? What's coming to what do you need to let go of? What do you need
Yeah.
to make peace with in order to, I guess, open yourself up to that next chapter or that next step?
Isn't it funny because I've always had a thing for nine,
Hmm.
and it's when I see it, that's my sign of I'm on the right path.
Hmm.
I'm doing whatever it is, even if it's something, if I'm going through something tough. If I see a nine, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm meant to be. It's sort of
Yeah,
like my number that
totally.
reassures me. So that's
Mm.
good that you told me what that means. So
Yeah.
I'm always like, why have I got this thing for nine?
Hmm. And for me, zeros feel like a real sense of like birth. They feel like,
Yeah.
um, for me, when I see zeros, I think of like a baby's being born, because zero is like the very start, or like you see zero at the
Yes.
end of a 10-digit number or 100 or a
Yeah.
thousand, but you still think of that zero. I always still think of that zero as a baby, in a way. Like
Oh.
so for me, that message represents like innocence, purity,
Yeah.
creation, uh, higher dimensions in a way, or just something really pure coming through.
Yeah. Oh, I like
And
that. Yeah.
for me personally, something that's been showing up a lot is like 1, 2, 3, 4. And I feel like that's climbing stairs. That's what I see when I
Yeah.
see that number. So this is where meditation is really important, when you want to try and understand what certain number patterns or what vibrations they carry, and
Mm.
how they resonate with your own frequency. So I find that, there's a lot of books out there, say on like numbers and dreams and colors and symbols and all that sort of stuff. But really, they're just general kind of guidelines. But what's really important to tune in and focus on is like how that resonates with you. And, you know, it has a vibration of its own. And when you get in touch with meditation, it's about finding out, or, swimming through all that etheric, energetic kind of information and seeing what meaning you can put together for yourself.
Yes, I love that because I think when the number combination comes up, we can be too focused on what that number symbolizes rather than focusing on what we're
Yeah,
vibrating
what
at.
personally
And
means to you and where your energy's at.
yes,
And
yeah,
I think when we start delving into like what the meanings are, that's when we get too into our head about whatever it might be, and we have that potential to kind of lose touch with what is actually there in front of us and what
mm,
answers are actually within us already.
yes,
So,
because
so
it's a
I
fine
really,
line, isn't it? Because
yeah,
if you're seeing number combinations, you're I always say this to my friends, that means that you're generally operating at a more conscious, mindful
yeah, you're
level
becoming
because you're
more aware of the
noticing.
numbers. Yeah,
Yeah. So
totally.
that's a great thing. So be happy that that's happening, but then we
Yeah,
can get in our own way because we just get focused on
totally.
what's that trying to teach me instead of knowing that within we
Yeah.
know where we're meant to be and what
Hmm.
where we should what our next move should be perhaps, but we want the numbers to
Absolutely.
tell us.
Yeah. And I feel like, if we really want to up level our intuition, um, we do begin at those steps of recognizing different things. And then that next step is engaging the senses, asking yourself questions, asking for signs, asking for guidance, and becoming more aware of and recognizing certain patterns and occurrences. And then, that all links in with being conscious and being mindful of what you actually
Yes.
experience from day to day.
So you suggest when you're trying to trust in your intuition to actually
Mm.
say, like, I'm going to look for a sign or show me a sign
Yeah, show me a
to, yeah,
sign, and just voice those requests. We're beings of free will. We can't receive guidance. Um, we can't receive as much guidance as we would like if we don't ask for it.
mm,
We have our free will, and it can't be contravened unless we're in a really dangerous kind of spot. And wouldn't it be so much more fun and so much more peaceful to know that you can get in touch with this energetic part of you that has these answers or has access to this wisdom, whenever you really need it, not just when you're in a
yeah,
life-threatening decision or a
mm,
life-threatening situation.
yeah, so true. Oh,
Mhm.
thank you so much, Nathan.
Oh,
You,
my pleasure.
I always tell everybody how just wonderful you are. So I'm so glad that people got
Thank
to
you.
experience just what a gift
Oh,
you
it's my
have,
pleasure.
and so
Hmm.
grateful for you to give up your time this afternoon away from your family, and we really appreciate it.
Hmm. I might also add in there that children are naturally very, very intuitive. You know,
Yes, I
they
agree.
um, they come from this space, or they're born out of pure love, this pure essence of creation or energy of the universe. And um, the younger they are, the closer they are to that connection, or the closer they are to that space from which they came. And
Mm,
it's through living in a physical world and noticing what's around them that can have them either nurturing their intuition or moving away from it, because
yes.
society doesn't always teach or um, respect or indulge in it, I guess you could say. So
And
yeah,
I
so
think
it's
too, yeah, we get these, we have experiences that are there to teach us, that are
hmm
life lessons along the way and help us grow.
yeah,
And we can be too quick instead of looking at that as a lesson that we needed to
mm,
experience in order to further our own growth, as that being a symbol of that we've got no intuition, that we're hopeless, you know, and we doubt ourselves and
mm,
doubt, you know, that intuitive feeling. And I think it's important for us to know that, you know, when we look back, there's always that intuitive sense. That's why one of my
absolutely.
favorite quotes is sometimes the red flags are the deal breakers. I've had
Mm,
so many past experiences where there was plenty of red flags, but I went against my intuition. Now I could blame that experience and say that I had no gut intuition, or rather look at it and say, okay, I needed to learn that so I could grow and get to where I am. And so I know I've got a great gut instinct, but sometimes I've got to learn some lessons. So
absolutely.
I don't listen to it. So the older I get, I'm getting a lot better at just listening to it. And even if it's hard,
Mm,
I keep going. But like you said, kids listen. Like, you know, you see them instantly if they don't like somebody, or they just, because they haven't had anything
yeah, they
to get
just
in their
close
way of
down or
expressing it.
yeah, so intuition really shows itself through one's body language, and sometimes the
Yes.
body just goes in its own way, and kids are really good at just acting from a natural state. And it's funny that sometimes we kind of address kids as impulsive, or they can't sit still, or they're fidgety, or um, that they're or that society might see certain kids as rude or impatient or antisocial, but this is just all them expressing themselves, and you know naturally going with their body chemistry and their brain chemistry,
Mm,
naturally just regulating with their own emotions, and processing their own energy in their own way. And if we all manage to take a step back and to slow down a bit, we'd be able to see things from a similar kind of perspective, and
yeah.
not one where there is like, I'm right and you're wrong. And
Yes.
um, yeah, I really do hope that we can start to move in a slower direction. And um, yeah, right now it does feel like all this time that people have had to kind of withdraw and slow down a little bit could be quite beneficial to how they start to perceive their children and the way they interact with them.
And it's funny that you say that, because I've had probably about 3 or 4 conversations in the last week with other business owners,
Mm,
and all of them have said, well, you know what, this time where we've had to isolate and close our business, we realized just what we weren't making time for and what we needed to do in our business. So instead of it making them feel totally dejected, they actually were listening to their intuition about, these are the things that you've been putting off that are going to help your business grow. So let's keep doing that stuff. And each time I had that conversation, like, okay, I'm getting a message here, because it's so true. I think this stillness that we've had in isolation and just being more present because of other distractions going and things has helped people to actually lean into what they intuitively need and what the intuitive next step is for them.
yeah, and I feel like we're all
Oh, all
just
right.
getting this re reshift.
I know. Someone sent me a quote the other day that said the earth is breathing a little more deeply, and you know, because the pollution's clearing, and um,
Mm,
you know, if we take that perspective, it's sort of nice to think what can we use from this time to help us to enhance our quality of life and enhance our well-being. So
absolutely.
thank you so
Yeah.
much. It's so
Oh, my pleasure.
interesting. I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, you know what? I'm happy to jump on here every week and talk with you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. I hope you have a really wonderful weekend with your beautiful family.
Thank you.
All
Right back at you.
right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, we'll wrap it up. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.